cheap is not a word that applies.
The watch is often blurred. However, when you come to Guangzhou, you cannot see any problem just by looking at the appearance. What you need to be careful about is that the low quality movement inside will be sold at a high price.
My suggestion is you can try it first or buy it for a legal way. I'm Sean. See you next time.
Perpetuals.
You want to start adding Rolex to your collection? These are the 5 cheapest Rolex watches that you can buy right now. First one, we got the 36mm Datejust 16220 with the engine turn bezel, and it's worth around $6,500. The next watch is a 36mm Datejust 16014 with a blue dial and fluted bezel. This one is priced at around $6,200.
What if I told you that $30,000 Rolex gleaming on your wrist might have cost just $70 to produce? Or that the Swiss-made masterpiece you saved years for was actually assembled in China? The luxury watch world's darkest secrets are finally bursting into the light, and what's being revealed is shaking the industry to its core. For decades, high-end watch brands have cultivated an image of master craftsmen in snowy Swiss workshops, meticulously assembling timepieces by hand. They've sold us not just watches, but dreams, visions of exclusivity, heritage, and status. And we've paid astronomical prices for these dreams, standing on wait lists for years just for the privilege of dropping tens of thousands on a timepiece. But the fairy tale is crumbling fast. Industry insiders are risking their careers to expose the truth. Factory workers are going public with shocking revelations. And for the first time in history, Rolex, the untouchable giant of luxury watches, has been forced to slash prices on several models. Something unprecedented is happening, and it's time you knew what's really going on behind those glossy showroom windows. Welcome to Shenzhen, the real watch capital of the world. Not Geneva, not Zurich, but a bustling metropolis in China where the vast majority of the world's watches truly come from, including, as we're about to discover, many of those bearing the prestigious Swiss-made label.
You pay $4,400 for a Metas Tudor Black Bay monochrome. You pay almost $10,000 for a Rolex Submariner. And a Royal Oak Extra Thin, it costs like $36,000.
95% of the world's watches are made here, including the one you're wearing right now. Many big brand watches are produced or sourced for parts from here. This place is Shenzhen City, the world watch capital city. And in Shenzhen, you must not miss this factory.
The streets of Shenzhen buzz with a secret the luxury brands have spent billions to keep quiet. This tech-fueled city isn't just pumping out cheap knockoffs, it's creating sophisticated timepieces with scratch-proof sapphire crystal, perfectly finished ceramic bezels, and precision movements that rival anything coming out of Switzerland, and they're doing it at a fraction of the cost. Let's get one thing straight, we're not talking about those obvious fakes you'd find at a street market. We're talking about high-quality watches rolling off the same production lines that supply major luxury brands. In some cases, they're using identical materials, identical components, and identical machinery. The only real difference, that precious logo and the astronomical markup that comes with it. An anonymous industry source who recently visited these facilities was stunned by what he found. The quality of work here is exceptional, he revealed. I watched them creating watch cases, bracelets, and dials that were indistinguishable from what you'd see in a boutique display case. The precision, the finishing, the materials, all identical to what luxury brands charge thousands for. But how do watches mostly made in China end up with that coveted Swiss-made label? Here's where things get really interesting. According to Swiss law, for a watch to be labeled Swiss-made, only 60% of the watch's value needs to originate in Switzerland. Not 60% of the actual components, 60% of the value. And here's the clever part, value includes things like branding, marketing, and design costs. In practice, this means a watch can be almost entirely manufactured in China, case, bracelet, dial, hands, then shipped to Switzerland where they'll install a movement, add some final touches, and voila, it's legally Swiss-made. That prestigious stamp that justifies a 1000% markup is based on a technicality that the industry has exploited to perfection.
asking, y'all should receive. Tisa, where are the watch manufacturers? I did some digging and I found the watch manufacturers. There is a new scandal coming out of the luxury watch division. Listen, if you want to keep going to Rolex, if you want to keep going to AP and spending your money, go and do that. However, industry insiders are coming out, and I have their videos. People have even been fired from it for lifting the hood away from the
Most Swiss watches are actually made in China, and the reason that replicas often look just as good as the original is that they are made in the same factory.
It's the industry's dirty little secret, confesses a former employee of a major Swiss brand who was fired after asking too many questions. When I was restoring vintage watches from the 70s, I started noticing parts stamped made in China or made in Taiwan. When I brought this up with management, I was first ignored, then warned, and finally shown the door. They're terrified of consumers finding out the truth. He's not alone. Multiple industry insiders have come forward with similar stories. One watchmaker shared photos of luxury watch components clearly marked with Asian manufacturing origins. Another revealed internal documents showing how brands calculate that magical 60% threshold by inflating design and marketing costs. It's a carefully orchestrated dance designed to maintain the illusion while maximizing profits. The factories in Shenzhen are getting bolder too. They're no longer content to remain silent partners in this global charade. Some are now going directly to consumers, offering essentially the same watches they produce for luxury brands, just without the famous logo. They're not even pretending anymore. Many openly admit they supply parts to major Swiss houses like Omega, Tag Heuer, and Tissot. Some even hint at connections to Rolex itself, though those claims remain unverified. We offer a wider range of styles to choose from, maintain strict production standards, and can support customization starting from just 50 pieces. Boasts one factory representative in a video that went viral on social media. Why worry about middlemen? Contact us directly. The message is clear. Cut out the luxury brand and save yourself thousands. These factories aren't producing inferior goods either. They're using the same grade of 306 cell stainless steel, the same scratch-resistant sapphire crystal, the same high-quality ceramic for bezels that the luxury brands use. In many cases, they're employing the same skilled workers who produce components for the big names. The quality is virtually identical, something that becomes painfully obvious when you place these factory direct pieces side by side with their branded counterparts.
Watches come in different sizes. A small dial makes your wrist slimmer, while a large one makes you a stronger arrow. First of all, you need to determine your budget range. The Rolex data just is the best choice for cost effective.
So why aren't major watch publications covering this story? Why isn't this front page news in those glossy magazines dedicated to luxury timepieces? Follow the money. The luxury watch industry spends millions annually on advertising. Open any high-end watch magazine and count the full page ads from Rolex, Omega, Cartier, and others. These publications literally can't afford to bite the hand that feeds them. It goes deeper than just advertising dollars. Watch journalists and influencers enjoy lavish perks. All expenses paid trips to Basel World, the industry's premier trade show, free watches to review, VIP treatment at brand events. Cross these brands and that gravy train comes to a screeching halt. The incentive to maintain the status quo is overwhelming. That's why this revelation is spreading not through traditional media, but through social media platforms like TikTok, YouTube, and Reddit. It's everyday consumers and rogue insiders driving this conversation, not industry-controlled outlets with conflicts of interest. And now, something unprecedented has happened. Rolex, the titan of luxury watches, the brand that never discounts, has quietly reduced prices on several popular models. This isn't some splashy sale or public announcement. It's happening discreetly through authorized dealers in specific markets, with price cuts of up to 20% on models like the Submariner, GMT Master 2, and certain Oyster Perpetuals. The timing couldn't be more suspicious. These price cuts come right as the Chinese manufacturing revelations are gaining traction online. And it's not just any models getting discounted, it's precisely the ones facing the most competition from these factory direct alternatives. Rolex would never admit there's a connection, of course. The brand has built its empire on exclusivity and unattainability. Their strategy has always been to create artificial scarcity, making customers wait months or years for the privilege of purchasing their products. Price cuts fundamentally undermine this business model. The fact that they're happening at all speaks volumes about the pressure Rolex must be feeling. Industry analysts are stunned. I've been covering the luxury watch market for over 15 years, and I've never seen Rolex reduce prices like this. price, says one expert who requested anonymity. This is a seismic shift for a brand that prides itself on holding value. Something major is forcing their hand. That something appears to be a fundamental disruption in how consumers are accessing luxury timepieces. The traditional distribution channel, from manufacturer to authorized dealer to consumer, is being bypassed. Savvy buyers are connecting directly with factories through encrypted messaging apps like Telegram, WeChat, and WhatsApp, creating a parallel marketplace that luxury brands can't control. These factory direct watches aren't being marketed as replicas or fakes, language that carries negative connotations and legal risks. Instead, they've developed their own terminology: factory direct, unbranded OEM, same line release, parallel build, or B grade. These terms signal to insiders that they're getting essentially the same product without paying the brand tax. Perhaps most disturbing for luxury brands is the allegation that some Chinese suppliers are acquiring leftover materials from legitimate production runs for brands like Rolex. Instead of these materials being destroyed, as brands would prefer, they're being completed as watches and sold through underground channels for a fraction of retail price. If true, this means some unbranded watches floating around are made from authentic components. They just lack the official stamp of approval. The price difference is staggering. A watch that would cost $10,000 at an authorized dealer might be available through these channels for $800 to $2,500. And we're talking about pieces that are virtually indistinguishable from the real thing, not obvious counterfeits. For consumers, the calculus is simple. Is that logo and official warranty worth an extra $8,500? For many, the answer is increasingly no, especially when they learn about the true cost of producing these luxury timepieces. According to industry insiders, a Rolex that retails for $6,000 might cost just $1,200 to $2,500 to manufacture, less than 25% of the sticker price, and that's before dealer markups. Some brands are more transparent than others. Christopher Ward, a British watchmaker, proudly states they never charge more than 3 times their production cost. Omega typically charges about 4 times the manufacturing cost, but Rolex? Experts suggest they're marking up their watches by 5 times or more. This isn't to say there aren't legitimate costs beyond the physical components. Luxury brands invest heavily in marketing, research and development, and customer service. They maintain lavish boutiques in prime locations and sponsor high-profile events and celebrities. These expenses are real, but they also raise an important question. How much of what you're paying for is the actual watch, and how much is the brand's image? It's important to distinguish between different categories of watches. On the bottom end, you have those $60 knockoffs flooding social media ads. These aren't worth your time or money. They use cheap movements that won't keep accurate time, low-grade metals that will tarnish or cause skin reactions, and glass that will scratch at the first opportunity. They might look passable in a heavily filtered Instagram post, but one glance in person reveals the truth. In the middle, you have these factory direct or unbranded OEM watches. These use quality materials, genuine 316L stainless steel, sapphire crystal, ceramic bezels, and reliable movements. They're built to last, keep good time, and withstand daily wear. Side by side with their branded counterparts, only an expert with specialized tools might spot the difference. At the top end are the genuine luxury watches, complete with prestigious logos and eye-watering price tags. The quality here is undeniably excellent, but the question remains, is it really 5 or 10 times better than those middle-tier options? For some brands like Patek Philippe or Audemars Piguet, the answer might be yes. These houses create truly proprietary movements with innovations and complications that represent genuine horological artistry. But for others, the gap between perception and reality is growing uncomfortably wide. So why do we still line up and wait months or years for a luxury watch? Why do we willingly pay these astronomical markups? It's not about telling time. Your smartphone does that perfectly well. It's about what the watch represents. Luxury brands understand the psychology of desire perfectly. They're not selling timekeeping instruments. They're selling membership in an exclusive club. They're selling a shorthand way to signal success, taste, and status. They're selling the story you tell yourself when you look at your wrist. Their marketing reinforces this at every turn. Rolex doesn't show you close-ups of watch mechanisms in their ads. They show you adventurers scaling mountains, explorers diving to ocean depths, or celebrities excelling in their fields, all while wearing wearing their watches. The message is clear. This isn't just a watch, it's a symbol of achievement and belonging. The artificial scarcity they create, those infamous wait lists, only enhances this effect. Being told you can't have something immediately makes you want it more. Being made to wait for the privilege of spending your money triggers a psychological response that makes the eventual purchase feel more significant, more earned. This strategy has worked brilliantly for decades, but now, with the curtain being pulled back on how these watches are actually made and what they truly cost, consumers are questioning the value proposition. Is that logo and the story it represents really worth an extra $8,000? For some people, the answer is still yes. The official warranty, the boutique experience, the absolute certainty of authenticity, and yes, the brand recognition, these things have value. Walking into a room wearing a recognized luxury watch makes a statement that an unbranded piece, no matter how well made, simply cannot. But for a growing number of consumers, the equation is shifting. As one watch enthusiast put it, once I learned what goes into these watches and what they actually cost to produce, I couldn't justify the markup anymore. I'd rather put that money toward my kids' education or retirement. The luxury watch industry now faces a difficult choice. They can continue pretending nothing has changed, hoping this storm of revelations blows over. They can adapt by being more transparent about their sourcing and pricing, or they can double down on what truly sets them apart: heritage, craftsmanship, and service, to justify their premiums. What we're witnessing isn't just a crisis for luxury watch brands, it's a fundamental shift in how consumers think about luxury goods in general. In an age of instant information and global connectivity, the mystique that once surrounded these products is evaporating. Consumers can now peek behind the curtain and make more informed decisions. This doesn't mean luxury watches will disappear. There will always be a market for exceptional craftsmanship and prestigious names. But the days of unquestioning acceptance of massive markups may be waning. Brands that can't articulate a compelling reason for their pricing beyond their logo may find themselves in trouble. So where does this leave you, the consumer? With choices. More choices than ever before. You can still save up for that Rolex if the genuine article means something special to you. You can explore well-regarded mid-tier brands like Seiko, Longines, or Oris that offer excellent quality at more reasonable prices. Or you can venture into the murky but increasingly legitimate world of factory direct options if you value the look and quality over the brand name.